Alright guys, this is a video on this worksheet, Arithmetic and Geometric Sequence. I'm going to go through and explain how to fill in what you fill in and what the answers are to each of these problems. So if you are struggling with this worksheet, hopefully you're watching this video and hopefully it makes perfect sense. Alright, so this starts off saying an arithmetic sequence is a sequence of terms that have a common blank between them. And so we determined in class that if it's arithmetic, then it has, the word that we use is a common difference. What an arithmetic sequence is, if you've forgotten, I'm going to be doing this work on a separate sheet of paper, trusty pencil. All an arithmetic sequence is something where you're always adding the same amount. Okay, so if we look here, sorry about that, very powerful. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. This is an example of an arithmetic sequence because you're adding what to every term? You're adding 2. Okay, so arithmetic sequence is when you add the same amount every single time. In this case, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. So the word that's going to be filled in here is difference. It's a common difference. I'm not going to write on the sheet, but the word is going to be difference. Okay, then ask for a formula. When we talked about this formula, we didn't use the variable Tn in class, but you can use Tn. I'm going to go ahead and write in terms of An, because that's what we used in class. It's going to be An equals A1 plus N minus 1 times M. Okay? One thing to note, I'm sorry, not M, D. Now, it's kind of funny that I put M, because what I was thinking about as I was writing this is that this is the slope, and that's what I was going to allude to, is the fact that this formula, if I rearrange it as AN equals D, this is going to happen a lot, by the way. I apologize. I'm using a pencil, and I tend to break lead of a pencil. It's because I'm very powerful, and when I'm at home, I'm actually Superman. Okay. No, seriously. It's a Superman. Okay. All right. What's going on here is if I rearrange it this way, this equation is the same thing as y equals mx plus b. Okay? So d gets replaced with m, this is x, and a1 is b. In other words, the equation for to find an arithmetic sequence is really the equation to find a line. It's the same thing as the equation of a line. And if you think about, if you graph points, what actually is going on if you graph points is the difference is the rise over the run, right? In which you go up and over, up and over. So if you think of these points as this is the first term, second term, third, fourth, fifth, you don't even write first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Okay, if you think about it this way, what are we actually doing? Well, the first term is 2, the second term is 4, the third term is 6, so on and so forth. They're all going up and over the same amount. And that's what D is. That's what M is. That's what slope is. So again, if you're having any sort of concerns or issues with this, if you think about it, even if you forget on a test what the formula is, if you think about it as a slope, you can really solve a lot of these problems. Okay, moving on. The next part here is it asks us, geometric sequence is a sequence of terms that have a common blank between them. Okay, so instead of a common term, this is what we call a common ratio. All right, so what does geometric mean? Geometric just means that instead of going 2, 4, 6, 8, who do we appreciate? It's 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. So instead of adding, what am I doing? I'm multiplying. So instead of adding, I'm multiplying by 2. Okay? So there's really not much difference between these two, other than the fact that in one we add, the other one we multiply. So geometric and multiply. By the way, going back to arithmetic, instead of adding, if I had a sequence like this, instead of adding, I would be subtracting, right? subtracting 2. But subtraction is really nothing more than adding negative numbers. So by the same argument, if I flip back over here, and I talk about this sequence here, if instead of adding, of multiplying, I'm dividing by 2 every single time, I really actually am multiplying. What I'm multiplying by is 1/2. So it's okay if you multiplication is actually nothing. Division is nothing more than multiplying by a fraction. So we're really talking about the same thing in much the same way as subtraction is nothing more than adding negative numbers. All right. So the formula we have here for this is going to be AN. Again, here they have TN. You can write TN, AN, whichever one makes you happy. A1 times R raised to the n minus 1. Okay? And R is the growth rate. N is the term, A1 is the first term, AN is the last term. Our notes have this in more detail. If that's not clear, let me know. I'll make a video about this in more detail. Okay, so if we're adding, subtracting, arithmetic, multiplying, dividing, geometric. Let's look at it. All right, so the first one, 6, 12, 18. What are we doing? Clearly we're adding by what? 6? Absolutely. 6, 11, 17. We're adding here by 5? No. So we're not adding. Let's try to multiply. Now there's a good question that was asked about this on the on one of the earlier assignments that we did, and I was, well, how do you multiply? Because clearly this is not clear. Well, if you think about what you're doing, you're taking this number here and you're multiplying it by something, and it's going to give you 11. Okay, so what we're multiplying by is the R value. It's that ratio. It's the growth rate. And so if we divide through by 6, we get R to be 11 over 6. So if I take 11 and I multiply by 11 over 6, if it gets me 17, I'm in good shape. But this is not giving me one. This is a 121 over 6. And I know 121 over 6 does not go in. 6 does not go evenly into 126. And the reason why I know this, so this is actually wrong, so now I'm going to change this to X. This is not true. This is not true. The reason why I know this without even doing any math is 11 is prime. So these two are prime. Prime meaning that you can't take the factors of 6 and go in here. In other words, the factors of 6, 3, and 2, they do not in any way go into here, okay, because 11 is prime. So, done. Can't do any more work. In this case, neither. So, again, to reiterate, I don't want to write on this, but the first one's going to be arithmetic. The second one is neither. All right, let's look at the third one. 2, 14, 98, 6, 86. Well, you can tell by the way it's growing, there is no way that this is going to be arithmetic. But we could be multiplying by what? Well, I think it's pretty obvious 2 times 7 would give me 14. So 14 times 7 gives me 98. I'm in good shape. So let's test that. Let's just work it out. All right. So I'm not used to writing with pencil. That's bizarre. Math teacher not used to writing with pencil. Very strange. All right. So if I multiply 14 times 7, 28. I like to talk to myself. So this becomes 98. So that looks good. Now, again, don't get lazy. Work it through. Test to make sure that it works for every single term. And clearly it does. So now that I know that it works, we know that letter C is geometric. So one more time, because I'm not writing this down. The first one's arithmetic. The second one is neither. The third one is geometric. What about this guy? 60, 80, 40, 20. Well, you can tell that it's not going to be arithmetic because I'm subtracting 120, and then if I do 80 minus 120, that's not going to get me 40. But I think it's pretty apparent that you're dividing by 2. So 160 divided by 2 is 80, 80 divided by 2 is 40, 40 divided by 2 is 20. We say whether we're multiplying or dividing, it's going to be what? Yep, it's going to be geometric. All right, what about this next one? Negative 40, negative 25, negative 10, and 5. What do you think? Well, the first thing to notice is though that the number looks like it's getting bigger, it's actually getting, I'm sorry, it looks like it's getting smaller, it's actually getting bigger. So don't let the negatives confuse you. And I would be adding 15. And if you do add 15 to each of these, you see that it does work. So it is arithmetic, and so we can move on to the next one. Woohoo! Next one, 7, 21, negative 21, 63, negative 189. This one here is going to be geometric. And how do I know that? Because if I keep multiplying by 3, we know it's going to be geometric. Also, worth noting is if you alternate between positive and negatives, it has to be geometric because arithmetic is not going to be alternating. Okay, so this is something else that's very important to realize is that when we solve problems like this one, you don't always have an arithmetic. I'm sorry, when it's geometric, it doesn't always progress upward. The graph can sometimes fluctuate. All right, so I'm going to stop it here. If I go talk for too long, I can't upload videos onto YouTube, and that wouldn't help you guys out. So I'm going to stop here. In the next video, I'll pick it up from number 2. You got any questions, comments, let me know. Post them on YouTube, post them on Edmodo. Let me know how I can help you guys out. All right, see you in the next one.